Check your 1982 pennies immediately. There is a specific variety known as the small date copper that weighs exactly 3.1 grams, and it has sold for over $10,000. But today, we are going deeper. We are looking for the heavy hitters, the wheat pennies, minted between 1909 and 1958, that can finance a new home. 1943 bronze cent. We begin with the most famous era in American numismatics. This is the holy grail of pennies. To understand this coin, you must understand the year. In 1943, the United States was at war. Copper was a critical strategic metal needed for shell casings and telephone wire. Consequently, the US Mint switched the composition of the penny from bronze to zinc-coated steel. If you have a grey magnetic penny from 1943, it is a common steel cent. It is worth a few cents. The value is staggering. In average circulated condition, a genuine 1943 bronze cent is worth over $150,000. In 2021, a specimen from the Denver Mint graded Mint State 64 Brown sold for $840,000. Another example from the San Francisco Mint sold for $504,000. If you find this coin, do not touch it, do not clean it, secure it immediately. 1944 steel cent. This is the inverse of the coin we just discussed, and it is nearly as valuable. In 1944, the mint returned to the standard copper-based alloy. However, just as bronze planchets were left over in 1943, steel planchets from the previous year were left over in the presses when 1944 production began. The result is a 1944 penny that is silver in colour and magnetic. This is the steely era for this year. The diagnostic process is identical to the 1943 era, but with the opposite results. You are looking for a 1944 penny that does stick to a magnet. It should be grey or silver in appearance and weigh exactly 2.7 grams. You must be vigilant against alterations. A common scam involves taking a 1943 steel penny and mechanically altering the date to read 1944. You must inspect the second number 4 in the date under high magnification. On a genuine coin, the spacing between the numbers is uniform. On a fake, the last 4 often looks cramped or has tool marks around it. The market for this era is robust. A 1944 steel cent from the San Francisco Mint in Mint State 66 sold for over $400,000. Even in circulated condition, this coin commands $30,000 or more. It is a retirement-level find hiding in plain sight. 1955 double die obverse. This is the king of varieties for the post-war era. It is likely the most recognizable era coin in the entire Lincoln series because the error is visible to the naked eye. You do not need a microscope to identify a genuine 1955 double die. The error occurred at the Philadelphia Mint during the hubbing process. The die was struck twice by the hub, but it was slightly rotated between strikes. This created a massive, distinct separation of images on the coin face. The diagnostic is centered on the date 1955 and the mottos Liberty and In God We Trust. You are looking for a complete separation of the letters. The spread is wide, roughly 1 millimeter. If you have to squint to see the doubling, or if you need a magnifying glass to notice it, you do not have the big variety. You likely have what is called machine doubling, or the poor man's double die, which is caused by loose dies and is worth only a few dollars. On the genuine variety, the serifs, the small lines at the ends of the letters, are split cleanly. Look at the 1 in the date. You should see 2 distinct tops and 2 distinct bottoms. The image must be crisp. If the doubling looks flat or shelf-like, it is not the genuine die. Values for the 1955 double die are consistent. In extremely fine condition, meaning the coin has seen some circulation but retains detail, the value is around $2,500. In Mint State 64 Red, meaning the coin has its original copper luster, the price jumps to over $15,000. The finest known examples have sold for over $100,000. 1958 double die obverse. If the 1955 is the king, the 1958 double die is the emperor. This is one of the rarest coins in existence. Only 3 examples are currently known to the numismatic community. However, because they were found in circulation, it is theoretically possible that a 4th or 5th example exists in a jar of pennies somewhere. The diagnostic is on the word liberty and the motto, "In God we trust." The doubling is dramatic, similar to the 1955, but the date, 1958, is relatively normal. The doubling on liberty is so severe that the letters look like they are stacked on top of one another. The L and the I show the strongest spread. You must look at the word trust at the top of the coin. The doubling is evident in the spread of the letters. If you see this visual marker, you are holding a coin that defies statistical probability. The value of this coin is astronomical. The most recent sale of a high-grade specimen, graded mint state 65 red, realized $1,136,000. Even a damaged, circulated example would likely command hundreds of thousands of dollars simply due to its scarcity. This is a lottery ticket coin. 1922 No D strong reverse. In 1922, the only mint producing pennies was the Denver Mint. Therefore, every penny from 1922 should have a D mint mark under the date. If you find a 1922 penny without a mint mark, you have found a coin produced by a dirty, over-polished die. The diagnostic requires you to distinguish between a weak D and a true no D. During production, the dies became clogged with grease and metal shavings, filling in the D mint mark. However, to be the valuable variety, the coin must have what we call the strong reverse. Flip the coin over. Look at the wheat ears. The lines in the wheat grains must be sharp, crisp, and fully detailed. The words 1 cent must be bold. If the reverse is weak or mushy, you have a less valuable variety. Furthermore, look at the obverse. On the genuine no D strong reverse variety, the second 2 in the date is usually sharper than the first 2. The L in liberty must butt up tightly against the rim of the coin. If the L is not touching the rim, it is not the rare die pair number 2 variety. In a grade of good 4, which is a heavily worn coin, this variety is worth over $800. In mint state, the price escalates quickly to $25,000. A gem quality example can fetch over $50,000. 1914 D Lincoln cent. This is not an error coin, it is a key date. This means the value comes from the originally low mintage, not a mistake in production. In 1914, the Denver Mint produced just over 1 million pennies, which is a tiny number compared to the billions produced today. The diagnostic is the mint mark D under the date 1914. Because this coin is so valuable, it is frequently counterfeited. The most common fake involves taking a 1944 D penny and scratching off the first 4 to make it look like a 1. You must inspect the space between the 9 and the 1. On a genuine 1914 D, the spacing is wide and even. On an altered 1944, the space is often cramped or shows tool marks. Another common fake involves gluing a D mint mark onto a 1914 Philadelphia coin. You should examine the mint mark under a loupe. It should look like an integral part of the coin, not a blob sitting on top of the surface. The D on a genuine coin is boxy and has a specific serif style used by the Denver Mint in that era. In good condition, a 1914 D is worth $175. If you find one in mint state 60 red, the value rises to $4,000. The highest grades command prices in excess of $80,000. 1909 SVDB. This is the coin that started it all. 1909 was the first year of the Lincoln cent. The designer, Victor David Brenner, placed his initials VDB on the reverse of the coin, at the very bottom between the wheat stalks. Public outcry at the time deemed the initials too prominent, and they were removed mid-year. The San Francisco Mint only produced 484,000 of these coins before the change was made. That is an incredibly low number. The diagnostic is twofold. First, you must confirm the S mint mark under the date 1909. Second, you must flip the coin and look for the initials VDB at the bottom rim. Both must be present. Be wary of added mint marks. A genuine S mint mark from 1909 has distinct serifs. The top loop of the S is usually smaller than the bottom loop. Also, look at the VDB. The middle period between the D and the B should be centered. On many counterfeits, the period is often too low or missing. A circulated 1909 S VDB in average condition is worth roughly $700 to $900. In uncirculated condition, the price starts at $2,000. A pristine red gem example can sell for over $100,000. 1917 doubled die obverse. While less famous than the 1955, the 1917 doubled die is a significant rarity that can be found in older collections. This error occurred at the Philadelphia Mint, so there will be no mint mark. The diagnostic focus is on the top of the coin. Look at the motto, "In God We Trust," and the word "Liberty." You are looking for a strong doubling of the letters. The doubling on this variety is most evident on the word God. You will see a split in the letters, where the second impression is slightly offset from the first. Unlike the 1955, the date 1917 does not show massive doubling. The key is the text. If you find a 1917 penny, put it under a magnifying glass. Most people miss this coin because they are only looking for the date. In fine condition, this coin is worth about $150. In extremely fine condition, that value jumps to $500. A mint state example is worth upwards of $5,000. 1936 double die obverse. There are 3 different double die varieties for 1936, but we are looking for type 1. This is the most valuable and the most dramatic. The diagnostic requires you to look at the date 1936 and the word Liberty. On the type 1 variety, the doubling is sharp and crisp. Look specifically at the 9 and the 3 in the date. You should see a clear separation. The letters in Liberty will also show distinct notching at the corners. The other types, type 2 and type 3, show doubling that is mushy or less defined. The type 1 is the money coin. The doubling on the motto, "In God We Trust," is also visible but less pronounced than on the date. A 1936 DDO Type 1 in very fine condition is valued at around $100. In mint state red condition, this coin sells for $3,000 to $5,000. 1931 S Lincoln cent. We conclude with another key date. While the 1914 D is rare because of circulation loss, the 1931 S is rare because of the Great Depression. The San Francisco Mint struck only 866,000 pennies that year, the second lowest mintage in the series behind the 1909 S VDB. Because of the economic depression, very few people were saving coins, but oddly enough, a hoard of these was discovered decades later, meaning uncirculated examples exist. However, finding one in a circulated jar is extremely lucky. The diagnostic is simply the date and mint mark. You are looking for 1931 with an S under it. The primary tell for fakes here is an altered 1930S or 1936S. Look at the last digit, 1. It should be straight and align perfectly with the other numbers. If the 1 looks crooked, or if there are scratch marks around it, be suspicious. In good condition, a 1931S is worth $75. In extra fine, it climbs to $150. A full mint state red example is worth roughly $400 to $600. While not a $1 million coin, it is a staple rarity that is essentially liquid cash to any coin dealer. Do not clean your coins. The moment you scrub a penny to make it shine, you strip away 50% of its value. Check your change, check your jars, and check the inheritance from your grandparents. Subscribe for more valuations. This is Coin Expert USA. Let's discover what's in your pocket.